I think the
just give it a moment for people to drop in.
okay. Can they get in now?
Yeah. Cool, so we might just get started. So
I think maybe we're gonna wait for another 1 minute. Is it?
yeah,
okay?
sure.
Yeah. Okay, I think
Yeah.
everyone's get ready. Yeah, if other people they gonna arrive, they gonna get join us later. Okay.
Sure. Okay, so we'll get started. So Nin Hao, No Mai, Haere Mai, and welcome to the Faculty of Education and Social Work's Information Evening for members of the Chinese Association of Early Childhood Teachers. My name is Sophie Scott Elvidge. I am the postgraduate taught recruitment specialist here at the faculty, and I'll be your host for this evening. I am joined tonight by Joshua Sarpon, who is our subdoctoral and doctoral advisor here at the faculty, and also by Camille Yang, who is one of the founders of the Chinese Association of Early Childhood Teachers and also a current master's student. So who better to have? I'll just run through some brief housekeeping first. So firstly, just apologies if I'm coughing at all, just getting over the tail end of an illness. We do have a Q&A function. So as we go through the presentation this evening, if you do have any questions that you want to ask, just feel free to pop them into the Q&A box. Please try and use the Q&A function rather than the chat function. That'll just enable us to go through those questions at the end. And we do have quite a generous time as well to go through those questions. So tonight we're mainly just going to go through the education programs that are on offer at the faculty, the master's programs. First, we'll just start with why choose the Faculty of Education and Social Work at the University of Auckland. We are New Zealand's top-ranked university. We're also the #1 university for education as a subject. We have a 97% employment rate for the faculty graduates, which is pretty impressive, as well as very strong connections in both schools and communities across Northland and Auckland. You're also going to experience teaching from world-class researchers and experienced practitioners on this program. Pretty much all of our lecturers have been practitioners out in the field. They have been, if they're teaching early childhood educators. So they do have the benefit of practical experience as well as that world-class research to back it up. The programs are relevant, they're focused, they're customized within the best of our ability. If we can make the program fit you, fit your life, fit your needs, fit your practice, then we will. You also want to be thinking about your results. You want somewhere that's going to give you good career development, improved practice, because that's probably why you're thinking about these programs, insights into that world-class theory and research, and you're also going to be connected with a community of scholars. You also want to make sure that you're maximizing your cost, and that's not just financial, but that's also your time, your social life, and your effort and hard work. So we have a range of master's programs on offer, and a lot of them have very similar names, which can make it a little bit confusing when you're first looking at them. Some of them, as you can see, are 120 points. Some of them are 180 points. A lot of the difference between whether you do 120 or 180 point will depend on your prior qualifications and the entry criteria to that program. At least one of our programs as well also has a taught or a research option, but some of our programs are either taught or research. So we'll go through what that means in just a moment. Essentially, taught courses means that you're going to be going through a series of courses where you're enrolling with a bunch of other students. You may be doing collaborative work or you may be doing individual assignments, but you'll be taught alongside a cohort, a class of other people. It's really great if you want to learn about several topics and if you prefer to work or discuss things together in a class situation in a cohort format. Research is really great if you want to learn more about one particular topic. So particularly if you have a particular issue or insight into your own practice that you want to do a bit more of a deep dive into, that's where research is really great. You can understand more about that particular topic. And also if you've noticed gaps in research when you've been looking into something in your own practice or in the field generally, that's where you can contribute to a body of knowledge for other teachers as well. It's also quite important to choose a research program if you see yourself studying towards a doctoral degree in the future. And I know for some people that can sound quite scary at this point, but it may always be something that you get inspired to think about as you go through the studying journey. So we'll start with our sort of cornerstone master's program, which is the Master of Education. This is a 180 point program, and that means that it will generally either take you 1.5 years if you're studying full-time or 3 years if you're studying part-time. If you are working alongside studying, we always recommend that you study part-time. This is quite a wide master's in terms of there's a lot that you can choose from. So there are 2 elective courses and they can be any courses you want. You could even pick courses from outside of the faculty. If they're going to make sense for your intended research, for your practice, then we want to design a program that's going to make sense for you. After your 2 elective courses, you then do a research methods course, and this course is really important for scaffolding you into that 90-point thesis. In your research methods course, that's where you will kind of learn about different research methods, how to write a literature review, how to write a research project, all of that really, really important stuff that you'll need for when you start your thesis. Your 90-point thesis then is basically half of the program, and that could either be done normally over a year if you're full-time or 1.5 years if you're part-time. And that really is your opportunity to do that sort of deep dive into an area that you're really interested in or that you've noticed has gaps in its research. The entry for this program is a GPA of 5 in your prior education, and you will need some idea of what you're planning to focus your research on. At the point where you're going in and doing your first taught course, you don't need a really, really solid, fleshed out idea and research question. You just need an idea of, this is something I'd really like to look into. Next is the Master of Educational Leadership, and this has a research and a taught option. So the research option consists of 1 core course, which is the Educational Leadership course, and then a core elective. And what we mean by that is it's from a small pool of electives that you can choose. You then do a research methods course, which again will bridge you into doing that 90-point thesis. The entry requirement is quite similar to the Master of Education. You will need a GPA of 5, some idea of what you're planning to focus your research on. And this master's program is really for those who are wanting to go into leadership or who may already be in leadership positions. So now we come to the taught version of the Master of Educational Leadership. Again, the purpose is the same. It's for those who may already be in leadership positions in their schools, or they may be wanting to move into leadership positions. The taught version, you will go through 6 courses. You can do those fully online if you wish, and if you do choose the fully online version, you can complete that within 2 years. The Master of Professional Studies in Education is a 120-point program. This is a really interesting program because it's got a 60-point dissertation, which a lot of our programs don't. What this program consists of is 2 elective courses, which again can be anything you want. You will then do your research methods course, which will then teach you how to do your 60-point dissertation. It is important to note with this course that although it's classed as a taught program, it does still lead to doctoral studies because it's got that 60-point dissertation. The Master of Education Practice now is a 180-point program, which again, either 1.5 years full-time or 3 years part-time. It's got a 1 core course, which is an education practice course. It's then got a core elective, and then it's got 4 elective courses. Sorry, that last one should say elective course. For this program, you'll need a GPA of 3.5 in your prior qualification. It is important to note with this program that it doesn't have a research component, which means that there is no direct pathway to doctoral studies. There are always options if you do a taught program and then you decide you want to do doctoral studies, but it is going to take you a little bit longer, so it's better to just think about it at the point of starting your master's. We've then got the 120-point Master of Education Practice, which again, it very much depends on what your prior study is, whether you would do the 120-point or the 180-point program. It generally requires something like a graduate diploma in teaching for entry into it, as well as a GPA of 5. This is a shorter program, so you would do that first core course, which is an education practice course, 1 core elective, and then 2 further elective courses. If you are thinking about one of these programs and you think that your GPA may be less than 5 or you're not sure, don't fret. Most people in their undergraduate degrees, me included, were not really thinking about our GPA. We were just thinking about getting through the degree. And so we completely understand, and we're not going to block you out of postgraduate study. All that happens if you don't quite have the GPA is that you start out in what's called a postgraduate certificate in education. This is a 60-point program, which is normally 2 courses, and you just need to get a B average across those 2 courses, and then we transfer them into the master's program that you want to do. So as long as you get that B average in those 2 courses, we delete the postgraduate certificate, move the courses into the master's program, and you just continue in that program. So it's no further time, no further study. It's just that you do the first 2 courses under that postgrad certificate. There are a lot of courses that focus on early childhood. There are also a lot of courses that focus on quite a wide range of different areas, and for programs like the Master of Education, the Master of Education Practice, you can include courses that come from our social work department, counselling, professional supervision, whatever makes sense for you. So some of those courses are early childhood curriculum issues. One of the really popular courses that we have on offer is always educational psychology. And then we've also got some quite wide range of courses such as education and diversity, issues in child welfare and protection, and those domestic violence challenge and protection papers. You can Zoom into class from anywhere in real time, especially with COVID. We've all had to learn to be in a much more flexible sort of world. And with that, a lot of our courses are now either offered online or as hybrid courses. So for the online courses, what that will mean is they will either have scheduled class times that you can Zoom into online, or they may not have scheduled class times, they may have recorded lectures. And for some of those hybrid courses, they may have some face-to-face lectures and some online lectures. And there may always be the option, if you can't attend face-to-face, to attend online with the rest of the class. So I'd now like to introduce Camille Yang, who's one of the founders of the Chinese Association of Early Childhood Teachers and a current master's student with us. She also plans to continue through to PhD study. So if any of you are thinking about that, she's the girl to listen to. So I'll just let her introduce herself and just answer a few of the questions on the screen now.
Okay, thank you, Sophie. Thank you for your, for your effort and your time to give us, the details of all the programs. So, my name is Camille, and like everyone, originally I'm from China. I came here, more than 10 years ago. Yeah, I have been in ECE field more than 10 years. So I'm one of the founders of CAECE. I think everyone knows, CAECE is Chinese Association about, of ECE. So we have around 1,500 members. They are all Chinese and in the ECE field. Some of them are, New Zealand registered teachers. Some of them are still in training. Some of them are managers, and some of them are investors in ECE, and some of them are Chinese and New Zealand early childhood education communication experts. So thank you everyone for joining us. So what made me to choose this program? So like everyone, I start my ECE career, start with level 5 in early childhood education, and then level 6, level 7, go through this. After I have been, being a ECE teacher for so many years. At beginning, I was, volunteer reliever, part-time teacher, qualified teacher. Later, I moved to management. After so many years in the ECE field, I was quite stuck. I was quite confused as well because of lots of things happening, every day, just, doing the same work. And also the salary is also considerable salary, I just feel like, I made lots of efforts, when I try to buy a house, I found it was quite difficult to pay the mortgage because, I just feel like, I didn't have enough money, every week to pay the mortgage and everything. And I was thinking, I was already in the management, field. I was thinking, and one thing is about my career, which way I should go, because I have been in that field for 10 years. I feel like which way I should go, to extend my knowledge, and also something new, because I like challenges. I want something new. I also want to extend my knowledge because I'm really interested in ECE. I don't want to jump to other fields. And also I want to feel like my salary, if it could be more, that can be better. So I had a look at all the universities in Auckland, and had a look at all the programs, later, and then I chose Master of Professional Practice. And for the uni, I chose Auckland University. I think because it's the best university in Auckland. Yeah. After I studied at University of Auckland, I was quite impressed because when, at that time I didn't know, because you guys can see there's lots of programs over there. I didn't know which program I should choose. I was so confused. So I went to the office, and then that's a lady, I think she was in Sophie's role. Yeah. And she helped me a lot. She helped me went through all of the program, and only with me one by one. And she said, what kind of, what document do you have, or what kind of, practice, all of this. She helped me one by one until I get the offer, and I paid everything. And once I start my study, she was still helping me, how to choose the course, and then what should I do, lots of things. She was so helpful. So I found, from admin part, it was very helpful. And from lecture part, because, I was working full time and part-time study, it's gonna be quite hard. And plus I have, my son with me. So the tutor, the lecturer, they are very helpful as well. They help me if I have any problems. They just I email them, and they email me back very quickly, and then make an appointment with them. So they went through everything with me. I found it's quite helpful as well. For my practice, I feel like, before, I always practice in ECE literature, in the ECE field, have lots of experience, but I don't have much experience about research. So after I studied, Master of Education, I feel like, it's something new. It is I can't say difficult. It is not easy, and it is not easy. But it's something, with the supervisor, with the help of your supervisor, you can achieve. So I found, research. I really, interested in research, and it opens a new field, opens a new door for me. I found, and my supervisor is very helpful as well. I have two supervisors. They help me a lot. It's kind of like, you walk into University of Auckland. I mean, education department, the campus of Epsom, but I don't know the other department. You walk into the campus, and then you need help, from the first step, and they help me from enrollment, and which program I enroll, from my study, the lecture, they were so helpful. My lecture, they are very, very nice, helpful, about my research, my study, and everything, and help me about my practice as well, make me think, oh, why, I practice like this, what makes sense, and also open a new field about my study and my career as well. So now I'm really interested in, in research, academic part. So, and so I'm going to, start my doctoral study as well. I supposed to be started last year, but I have been very busy and lazy. So I'm still working on my master. I got my assignment, my thesis will due very soon. So I'm gonna submit. Hopefully I'm gonna start my doctoral study very soon as well. And for this study also opened a new door for my career as well. After I have been an ECE teacher in the daycare, and also jump into the management role, and after that I went to tertiary, education, because I have my registration, and because I have so many years practice in ECE field. So I start my tertiary teachings. I started from level 5. Level 5 is diploma in early childhood education. Yeah, and I found it's quite interesting. It's a little bit challenge, but not that much. I think, with the study and with the practice experience, and also with the knowledge, I think, I can handle it. It's good. And because I want to study, continuing doctoral study. So now I changed my job. I changed my job to be, it's also tertiary level, but it's teaching level 4 certificate in early childhood education. Yeah, I found it's quite useful. Why, after I found, the Master of Education helped me, and University of Auckland helped me, and it's so helpful. So that's why I talked with the founders of our organization, ECE. I said, why don't we ask them to help us, because help the group of our people. So this workshop has been run, I think, almost 2 years. So every workshop, it was very successful. So it's give you some ideas. And before we run it, face to face, since COVID-19, so we run, face to face. Yeah, I think if you guys have any problems, any issues or any question or something later on, you can, go to the University of Auckland, go to survey, and also if you want to talk with me, that's okay. Yeah, thank you very much. That's all I want to say. Yeah, I just give the time to survey. Yeah.
Oh, thank you for that. That was really helpful. Okay. Okay, I will, I just want to give a quick reminder that if you do have any questions, please do use the question box down below, and we'll just go through those at the end. But I'll now hand over to Joshua to go through some doctoral studies.
Thank you, Sophie. So my name is Joshua Sapon, and I came to New Zealand as an international student. I did my bachelor's degree in Ghana, my home country, and then my master's degree in Norway, and finally came to New Zealand for my PhD. And so, like Hamel, I'm also a past student of this great university and this faculty. To add to what Sophie said, we are ranked among the top 30 faculty of education in the world. So it was a privilege to study in the great faculty. Yes, you've heard a lot about the master's degree program, and I know some of you at this stage will be thinking about, going on to do a PhD like Camille. So I'm here to kind of tell you what the program entails. So from those both theoretical aspect and also practical, because I've gone through it, and I'll be sharing some experiences with you. So yes, the PhD. I know sometimes students get confused when they are applying. We have two types of doctoral studies, that is PhD, Doctor of Philosophy, and the Doctor of Education. So I'll explain the difference between these two. The Doctor of Philosophy is purely research-based, and so as a full-time, you do it for 3 years, and part-time is normally 6 years minimum, and then 8 years maximum. For the full-time, it is 3 years minimum, 4 years maximum. But for international students, we are not allowed or encouraged to do it on part-time because of our visa issues. And so that is why here you see 3 years full-time. And at the end of your PhD, you come up with a doctoral thesis. That is what is expected of you. There is no coursework in your PhD. But like the master's degree, sometimes during your, admission process, your potential supervisor would advise that maybe because you don't have a strong research background, they would encourage that you do a research method course as part of your PhD. And so that is when probably you'll be allowed to do research. Apart from that, the PhD is purely research and there is no coursework. And with the Doctor of Education, that is kind of for those who are, working and want to study. And so the first 2 years is normally taught courses. And then the last 2 years is purely research. And so, it is done on cohort basis. Unlike the PhD where, you can apply at any time during the year. For the Doctor of Education, that is done at a different time of the year. So I'll explain this as we go. So we'll move on to my next slide. And okay, great. So I'm going to start with a PhD. So now you'll be asking yourself, what do you need to be able to enter the PhD program? So when you apply, the admissions team will assess your transcript. They will convert it to the University of Auckland grading system to see if you meet the GPA requirement of 6.0. And another thing is also that you need to have a Bachelor of Honors degree with first class, but it must be compared to that of the University of Auckland. And so the admissions team will do that analysis to see whether your qualification is similar to what we have here at the University of Auckland. And another thing is also you need to have a master's degree. So you could have the Bachelor of Honors first class, or you could have the second class division, or you can have master's degree. And I think you'll be asking yourself, how do I know if mine is similar to that of University of Auckland? So I think it was hard for me as well, but it is always good to ask the admissions team, and they're happy to respond to you. And another thing you need to do is to choose your research interest and find a supervisor. I think this is a very interesting or very key thing that I would advise that you do, because there are times that you have a strong GPA. For example, you can have a GPA of 8.0, but then if you don't get a supervisor, it will be very hard to get an admission. So at the initial stages, we advise that applicants normally look for supervisor. So when you go to our university or the faculty's page, you'll find a link that says find supervisor. So you have a list of supervisors with their research interest. So it is encouraged that you go through the list and then choose someone you think your research interest aligns with, and then you can contact the person. So usually before you contact your potential supervisor, you have a research interest, as in statement of research intent, what you want to do. Then you write to the professor and say, dear professor, so I am this, and I'm interested in working with you. This is what I want to explore. And so you establish that rapport at the initial stages. And if they are happy to supervise you, then they would encourage you to go ahead and apply. I know sometimes it can be challenging, because with myself, for example, I couldn't find a supervisor at the initial stage. So I would say that shouldn't stop you from applying. Just put in your application. When it comes in, it's my duty. So we will help to find you a supervisor. So we will circulate your research interest among academics in the faculty. And if anyone is interested, they will come up and then we will process your application. So that is very important. So the next thing is, yes, everything is done, you submit your online application. So in submitting your online application, you'll be asked to upload certain documents, and one key thing is your academic transcript. That is when we get to know your GPA and the statement of research intent that I spoke about. We sometimes call it preliminary proposal. And another thing is also to arrange for your doctoral referees, people who can attest to the fact that, yes, you have a strong research background and you can do a PhD. Yes, because not everyone can do that, so someone should be able to testify that, okay, you are a strong candidate for the PhD program. And another key thing that we also look at is your thesis and your publication history. It's not compulsory to have publications, but then we want to assess how strong is your thesis. Is it something that gives you a strong foundation for the PhD? Because one thing you realize is that the PhD journey is quite lonely, and it is purely independent. Unlike the masters where you meet your lecturers almost every day. For the PhD, sometimes in a whole year, it is encouraged that at least you meet your supervisor once in a month, but it is kind of independent. And so you need to have a strong research background. Yeah, so we like to see your academic CV to see that you're a strong fit for the PhD. So these are the kind of documents that we encourage applicants to upload. as part of the admission requirements. Now, like the PhD, the entry requirement for the doctoral of education is also a GPA of 6.0, and then you need a Bachelor of Honors, first class or second class, and then you need a master's degree. And again, here too, you need a research project or dissertation. Yes, it is important to have that. And because this is kind of for those who are working, you need at least 2 years professional experience in education. And so one interesting thing about the Doctor of Education is that here, you kind of combining theory with practice. So it is an interesting program that, I encourage people to enroll in. And so, yes, and also you need to be based in New Zealand to undertake this program. So unlike the PhD where, at this stage, you can be offshore and do it, with the Doctor of Education, you need to be based here in New Zealand. And because of visa issues, this is not really recommended for, international students. And so you may be asking yourself, so can I enroll in this one? At this point, the answer may be no, but if you are in New Zealand, in the future, then this is, a program that you may want to enroll in. And yeah, so that is it. I look forward to your questions. Thank you.
Oh, that was brilliant, Josh. Thank you. So I've just got a slide here to go through how long, because especially at postgraduate level, the time limits are really important at the University of Auckland. So it is really important just to bear in mind the time frame that you're planning to do your master's in to make sure that you are within the time limits. So these are just showing you some of those timeframes there. When you do apply for a program, if you gain admission to that program, we will always send you details with what courses you need to enroll in and everything, and it will always state what the time limits are there. I'll just note with those two down, the two at the bottom, the two boxes there where it says 4 years and 6 years part-time, those are the maximum time limits that are allowed. So normally with, a 120-point program, you would be aiming to complete it in 2 years part-time, because that would be one course each semester, which is a nice kind of part-time load alongside if you're working full-time. But just to bear in mind that, the time limits are quite generous, 12 semesters for a 180-point taught program. So if you do need some extra time for those programs, that's absolutely fine. And when you are in, your research, we also understand that at postgrad level, particularly, people have got work and lives and families, and sometimes things happen that you can't always plan for. So if something's happening and you do need time off at all in your research, just get in touch with us, and there are processes that we can undergo in order to approve some time off for you. So if you have heard something that's inspired you tonight and you're thinking, I want to go and apply, the easiest way to do so is always online. If you hop onto our website, there's a banner right up the top that says apply now. If you just click on that and go through the application steps, that's the best way to apply. If you miss anything in the application, if you've applied for a program that isn't quite the right one, maybe you've applied for a 120 point and you need a 180 point, anything like that, we will generally get in touch with you and let you know. So it is always an open conversation that you can have with us. We will try not to just ever say no. If there are options, then we'll let you know what they are. You can apply for semester 2 this year, or you could apply for semester 1 next year. It's never too early really to apply for future semesters and start thinking about studying. We do have quite a lot of support available at the Epsom campus while studying, which Camille's spoken to a little bit as well. There is disability support, English language support, health and well-being services, counselling, academic and libraries workshops. And I know as a mature student myself, I have definitely made use of some of that academic support in the libraries workshops. And if you are feeling nervous at all, if it's been a little while since you've gone back into study, I can't recommend those highly enough. It just kind of gave me the confidence that, yes, actually, I was going to be fine going back into study, and this was what I wanted to do. So we'll now just move into the question and answer portion, and I can just see a couple of questions there. So just feel free to keep them coming as well throughout this, because we've got quite a bit of time now to answer any questions that you might have.
Yes.
I think they have two questions. One is Serena, another one is Queenie, I think. Quinty.
Yes. So Quentin has asked about the postgraduate certificate in professional supervision. For early childhood leadership, which is what you are asking about there, it wouldn't be the first program that I would recommend. It tends to be more for people who are looking at moving into professional supervision, as in maybe more in a counselling social work space, or as well in a teaching space where you might be mentoring other teachers. If you're looking at leadership specifically, I would probably look at the Master of Educational Leadership. And there's also a postgraduate diploma of educational leadership if you did want to look at that. But yeah, the Master of Educational Leadership is a really great one if you're looking at leadership. If you are interested in professional supervision, we do have some postgraduate information evenings towards the end of June. Cool. So there's a question about doing the Master of Education practice fully online in the coming semester. As far as I'm aware, that program, it can't be taken as a fully online program. However, a lot of the courses in that program now are available to take online. Camille, maybe you'd like to add to that, whether you've taken courses online as part of that program.
Okay, all right. I'm not very sure about, the coming semester, but, because all of the courses, I think, is after hours. So for example, it's at weekends, maybe Saturday. I remember some of them, one course is at Saturday, and one is every Monday after 4 o'clock, or once at evening. I forgot. So that's, for the courses arrangement. So it's quite, I think they already consider about, the people they are working, because there's most of these are domestic students, of course, most of them are working. I remember the earliest one from my experience, the earliest one is, I think it's from 4:30 to something, 4:30 to 6:30, and then it's only every Monday morning, and it lasts for 8 weeks. So if you are working full time, you can still, maybe ask for, if it's 4 o'clock, ask for maybe for 1 hour leave or every Monday or something. And another one is at weekend, I remember.
Yeah.
So I think it's quite handy, yeah.
Yeah, no, we definitely try to design the program for people who are working full time, and definitely for the education programs. Most of the people studying them are teachers working full time in classrooms Monday to Friday and can't, it's not like an undergraduate degree where you might be sort of in class at random times during the day.
Yeah, very different from undergraduate, studies. So I think don't need to worry about this too much, and also if it's fully online, you feel like you don't get enough support from the lectures, and also you can't interact with the student, they are from, because in the Master of Education, and most of the students, they are, all of them from ECE, from education field, but not only ECE. so you can have, you know, interact with the lecturer and the students. I think it helps, you know.
Yeah, that's very true. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
There's just a question here about the difference between the Master of Education and educational practice. So the main difference between those two programs is that the Master of Education is a research program and the Master of Education practice is a taught program. So with the Master of Education, you will do 2 elective courses and then a research methods course, but you're kind of building into a 90-point thesis, which is a big independent piece of research. You will be working with either 1 or 2 supervisors, but you won't be attending classes alongside other students. Whereas in the Master of Education practice, you will go through a series of taught courses. So in every single semester that you study in, you'll be in a course with other students, with a class, with a different lecturer. So that's sort of the main difference there.
Okay, Hannah and Sophie, can I ask one question?
Yes.
Because Master in Education and in educational practice, that's also another different. One is, you know, taught, one is, you know, research based, right? If it's taught based, after that you can't go to PhD, right? Yeah, so I think everyone need to remember of this. If later you are planning to go to PhD study, you need to think about this. Yeah.
Yes, no, that's very true. Yeah, so for the research programs, if you're thinking, even if it's just a vague thought at this stage, I would be looking at a research program.
Yeah, that's when I was, you know, choosing, and I think when I doing my application, I was thinking, you know, which one I should choose. So I consider about, you know, research based because at that moment, although I wasn't sure, but just, you know, just in case, you know, so open a door for yourself. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This might be a question for Josh.
Yes.
So if somebody has a bachelor's degree in economics and a Master of Law and a graduate diploma in teaching, could they then apply for a PhD in education or I suppose either a PhD program or an EDD?
Thank you. Yes, thanks for your question. The answer is yes. I know a colleague who did his bachelor in computer science, master's in business administration, and did his PhD in education. So we look at your qualifying program. And so what was your master's degree about? So you did it in law. Was your topic education related? If the answer is yes, then you can, you know, easily use that for the PhD. Or it could be that you have publications related to education. You know, you can add that to your master's, and then, you know, it can be suitable for the PhD program. And so that is why it is important to contact your potential supervisor, where he can assess your thesis or make recommendation as to what you need to do to be able to get into the program. So yes, this shouldn't stop you from applying. Just go ahead and apply. Thank you.
Hannah, Josh, I think, you know, apart from you consider about the qualification, another thing is for the PhD is about GPA, right? You know, we can apply, but if we can get in or not is another question, right?
Oh yes.
Of course you can apply, everyone can apply.
Yeah.
But I think it's Jing Chu. I think her question is, you know, of course she can apply, anyone can apply, but if you want to apply, you want to get in, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I think the requirement of GPA is at least 6, right? Average is 6, right?
Yes.
Average 6, it means B plus. So your GPA has to be average B plus. So if it's not B plus, is there another way?
You know, there are exceptional cases where, you know, someone perhaps have a very strong research publication background, you know. And so, for example, you know, they are mature students, they've published a lot, they have research experience, and perhaps their GPA is 5 point something. This is an exceptional case where the supervisor can say, though this person doesn't meet the GPA requirement, but I think they are a strong fit for the PhD. So they can, put a case in, and the School of Graduate Studies can allow that. So yeah, so I think it shouldn't stop. So that's why I'm saying that the most important thing is to always ask. Nothing should stop you from pursuing your goal, especially with GQ question about your educational background. Personally, I also have my bachelor was in political science, but I've diverted and now I'm in education. So it's all about the topic that you want to explore. It is really important.
Okay. So I just want to make it clear to everyone, because Sophie said, for example, if you're from bachelor to master, if your GPA is not 5+, and then that's a pathway to do master degree. It's a postgraduate diploma certificate, right? So that's no bridge course for PhD, Josh? No?
Sorry, come again.
Okay, for bachelor to go to master, right? They have a requirement for GPA 5 or plus, right?
Yes.
5+, yeah. But someone, when they study, bachelor, they didn't even think about master.
Oh,
so the GPA maybe is only 4 or 3.5.
Yeah.
But Sophie said, if your GPA is under 5, the GPA can't reach the requirement, but they have a bridge course, kind of postgraduate diploma, postgraduate certificate in whatever. But that's 2 papers. In these 2, your GPA has to be B, right, Sophie?
Yes.
B, and then you can go to master. So it's kind of like a bridge course, and that gives you a second chance for your GPA. So for the doctor, is it a second chance or bridge course or not?
Oh yes, we have a bridging for those for PhD as well. So for example, someone may not have a strong research background.
Yeah.
And so what the supervisors will do is that, okay, they will admit them, but then ask them to enroll in research method course as part of your provisional year goals. So usually when you start your PhD, you have about 9 provisional year goals, but some will have about 10 or 11 because they don't have a strong research background. So the supervisor will say, okay, I'm going to admit you on the condition that you enroll in these research method courses. So that's why I said in my presentation that there is no taught courses in the PhD. You just start straight away with your research. But if you don't have a strong research foundation or background, your supervisors encourage that you do a research method course. Luckily, you don't pay for that. Usually, they just ask you to enroll it, and it's free of charge, which is very helpful for people. Yeah.
Oh, that's very good. I suppose that sort of ties into a question here about if somebody's done a taught master's program, they apply for a PhD.
Yes. Yeah. So with a taught master's, as Sophie said in the presentation, if you are thinking about PhD, then you should think about doing something research related, not taught. But again, that also shouldn't stop you. As I just said, if your supervisor thinks that you don't have a strong research background because your research or your master's was purely taught, they can make recommendation that you will need to enroll in these courses to help you kind of have that research foundation for the PhD. So as I said, if you are thinking about PhD now and you haven't done your master's, then as Sophie said, go the research way. But if you've already done the thoughts and you can't go back to change that, it still shouldn't stop you. And another way is, even right now, you can start publications, which is also a good way to show that you have a strong research background.
Yeah. Okay. Can I ask a favor, Josh? is it possible, for you to add one page on this PowerPoint to talk about the kind of like a bridge course, for the PhD, if someone can't meet the requirement of direct to go to PhD? For example, you said, you have publications, and then your supervisor said yes, and then your GPA maybe is 5, but your supervisor said, oh, you are capable to do PhD. That's good. And also another thing is you enroll in research master or whatever. Is it possible to do that?
Yes. You mean in the future or now?
Maybe later, because I'm thinking later maybe someone will ask for, can they have the PowerPoint or something? We can go through to have a look to, so if it's possible for after this, if you could add one page, so when I send this PowerPoint to the group, so they can have idea, they don't miss anything. Did you get me?
Yes, I get you.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, sorry for the interrupt. Yeah.
Thank you. And yes, we'll make this available for you to share after this.
Okay, good. Yeah.
So we have a question here about the Master of Secondary Teaching. Unfortunately, that's no longer a program that we're offering. I think it's been a couple of years since we've offered that program. So if you're graduating from a Bachelor of Teaching Early Childhood and you are thinking that you'd like, another string to your bow, you may want to teach primary or secondary in addition. It's easier to apply for the primary program. Secondary is a little bit trickier because you do need teachable subjects, but for both of those programs, it would be a graduate diploma in teaching that you'd be looking at. If you're wanting to teach secondary and you've done a Bachelor of Early Childhood, we would always be able to recommend some courses that you could do beforehand to give you those subjects to teach at secondary level as well. And also a question about finding out GPA. There is a GPA calculator on the website. I wouldn't necessarily recommend sort of, agonizing over it. If you are looking at it and you're trying to figure it out, it can be quite difficult if your qualifications are international as well. So generally, if you're thinking about your GPA because you're wanting to apply for a program, don't worry too much about trying to figure it out yourself, because it is something that our admissions department are highly skilled in, and they make those assessments very quickly, whereas for you and I, it can be quite difficult to assess our own GPA. We have a question here as well about Master of Professional Studies leading to PhD, which I'm glad we have a question about that, because it is quite interesting. It's technically falls under a taught program, but because it does have a 60-point dissertation, it can lead to PhD study. And the second question here is about needing, is it 2 electives that you need, or is it an elective and a research methods? That's going to depend a little bit on your prior study, because if you've done a research methods or research in the past, you may not need to do a research methods course. However, if you've just done a bachelor's degree in the past and you haven't done a research methods course, then you will likely need to do an elective course, a research methods course, and then your 60-point dissertation. I would sometimes recommend as well, if it's been a little while since you've been in research, just to pick up that research methods course anyway, because it's very, very useful to set you up for the dissertation. Did you want to add to that at all, Camille, or no?
No, really. I think she said only need 1 elective paper. I think need 2, right? Definitely 2. Yeah.
For Master of Professional Studies in Education, it would be you could do 1 elective, 1 research method, and then the dissertation.
Sorry. Yeah.
And then we've just got, I'll just take this last question here, which is, what career can we take when we finish the Master of Education practice? Many different ones. It's going to depend to an extent on the courses that you take in it. If you're thinking about working perhaps at a ministry level in policy, then there are courses that you could take as part of that program that will teach you about what it is like to work in a sort of wider, broader education setting and in policy. If you are wanting to simply advance, up the pay scale and in your career and add something to your practice, then that's also a great option for you. Yeah, and I don't know if you wanted to add to that, Camille, or
Not really.
yeah, perfect.
Yeah, I think everyone's different.
Yeah. But
And-
I think for that program, because it is a series of talk courses and there are so many talk courses available, it sort of is what you make of it as well, if that makes sense. So depending on where you want to go in, I would say, yeah, look at where you want to go in your career and then come and have a chat with us, and we can always recommend courses and pathways to try and get you there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Sophie, there was a question in the chat.
Oh yes, thank you.
It says that what if my bachelor's GPA does not reach 5+, but I have a master's degree? Can I apply for the master's in Auckland University?
Yes, definitely. Basically, whatever your highest level of study is, that's what we will take the GPE or GPA assessment on. So if you haven't done so well in your bachelor's, but then you've done better in your master's degree, we will assess your GPA based on that. So yes, absolutely. Cool, I think we're almost out of time, so we'll just move on. Now, if you do want to follow us on any of our social medias, please do, because we share quite a lot of the latest sort of news and upcoming events there.
Sophie, I think on the chat group is still another question.
Oh, yep, sure.
Do you mind have a look?
Okay, cool. So I've just got one question here about why doesn't Master of TESOL belong to your faculty? Mm-hmm. We do have postgraduate programs that are called Teaching Linguistically Diverse Learners. So those are the programs that we would recommend if you're a current classroom teacher and you're wanting to look at teaching linguistically diverse learners. So either teaching English as a second language, or teaching learners with linguistically diverse needs. The Master of TESOL at the moment sits with arts, and it's just we and arts sort of share quite a lot of common interests. We share some courses for some programs as well, so it just at the moment is sitting under arts, but we do also have a program that is more focused on education if you're interested in teaching TESOL.
Yeah. Okay, is it possible to leave someone's email address here so that if they have problem, so they can just email to the person? Oh yeah,
yes, good. Definitely, yes.
Yeah.
So my name is Sophie Scott-Elvidge, and my role is postgraduate taught recruitment specialist. So if you're thinking about studying any of these programs, but you do want to just have a chat further about any of them, or if you want to have a chat about courses that you're doing, if you're already in the program, anything like that, do feel free to reach out to the email address on the screen. And I think we did get to all the questions tonight, but if there were any in the chat that we didn't get to, we'll have a look at those after this and get back to you as well. But I just want to say thank you so much to Josh and Camille for your time as well. And Shishir, thank you to everyone in the audience for making the time to come tonight.
Okay, thank you very much, Sophie and Joshua. Thank you for sharing this with us. Thank you for your time. And I need to say thank you to Gloria because she helped me as well. And thank you for everyone attending this. Yeah. And hopefully it's helpful for everyone. Okay. Yeah. I think that's all for today.
Lovely, yeah. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Have a good night, everyone.
Okay, have a good night. Okay,
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye.